Meet the father of modern gynecology, Dr. J. Marion Sims. He's been dubbed the savior of women and the architect of the vagina for developing revolutionary gynecological procedures and tools like the dreaded speculum. Statues of the 19th century surgeon currently stand in 3 American cities, including this one right here in New York City. But it turns out your routine pap smear has a dark history. Dr. Sims conducted much of his research on slaves, like Anotha, a teenager who was one of many voiceless, faceless black women who suffered through his experiments without anesthesia or informed consent. For 4 years, Sims operated on young slaves repeatedly to find a cure for a condition caused by complicated childbirth that left many women incontinent or unable to control their urination. Anotha endured 30 practice procedures before Sims finally got it right. According to historian and medical ethicist Harriet Washington, Sims knew the operation was extremely painful, but wrote that using anesthesia was not worth the trouble or risk. In fact, the pain was so excruciating that the woman had to be restrained by 2 male surgeons just to make it through. And that's why many people are now calling for his statues to come down. But Dr. Sims isn't the only physician to use black people as unwitting test subjects. It's only one chapter in a long history of racist medical abuse. In the infamous Tuskegee experiment, federal researchers observed 399 black men with syphilis from 1932 to 1972. A cure was discovered 13 years in, but doctors withheld treatment for decades just so they could continue their work. And that's not even the most egregious example. For decades leading up to the 1970s, white doctors in training performed secret surgical sterilizations, including unnecessary uterus removals on black and Puerto Rican women. In the early 90s, the New York State Psychiatric Institute conducted a study into the genetic roots of violence. The researchers recruited mostly low-income black boys and injected them with a drug known to be poisonous. The boys' mothers were given a whopping $125 for having their sons participate. And to this day, we still don't know the long-term effects this experiment has had on those kids. These stories are horrifying, but racism in the medical field isn't a thing of the past. A 2016 study found that a quarter of medical residents who were surveyed thought black skin is actually thicker than white skin. And many of those same residents also thought black patients felt less pain than their white counterparts and recommended less accurate pain treatment. So it's not surprising that studies have found that black patients tend to trust doctors less. And all of this has real consequences on people's health. In East Harlem, where Dr. Sims' statue stands, 80% of the residents are black or Hispanic. And the average life expectancy here is almost 10 years lower than that of majority white neighborhoods in Manhattan. So maybe it's time we stop celebrating this racist history and start recognizing the centuries of abuse people of color have endured in the name of science.
Hey, thanks for watching. Splinter is here to bring you new videos every week, so follow us and check out our other videos for more. And
all right, so good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Welcome to What About Black Health? We broadcast every Wednesday, hosted by myself, Daryl Moss, and my partner in crime, Mr. Justin Yarde. Each week, we're going to come to you with different and talk about different aspects of a term I just took from Miss Liz Ogilvie, collective health, as it pertains to our community. I think it's a critical issue. I think it's a critical topic. It's something that we need to talk about on a regular basis. Whether it's in the kitchen, the living room, the church, or at McDonald's, it doesn't matter. We need to have this conversation. And I said McDonald's for a reason. Mm-hmm. Today, we're going to talk about food apartheid. Now, it's a term I think I've heard for the first time last week. I've heard of food deserts. I thought I had an understanding of it until I heard of food apartheid. So after the last week's broadcast, I kind of went online. I Googled up food deserts. Then I looked up food apartheid. And I started reading more. And I realized I didn't know practically anything about it. And I think most of us don't know as much about it as we think we do, or to the extent of which we should in terms of how it impacts our health, whether it be physical or mental. So I brought on someone Liz Ogilvy. I have so much respect for her. She is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And she's agreed to join us today and talk about it. So with that being said, Mr. Ogilvy, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Liz Ogilvy, and I am regular. I'm crazy about food. I talk about food. I grow food. I live food. I currently serve on the board of Gardening the Community, which some of you know. You've seen our kids delivering food on bikes throughout the neighborhood. We built a farm store on Walnut Street in Mason Square. We have a greenhouse. And Black people, we built that for you. I've had Black people tell me, oh, I don't go to that store because it's so pretty. It looks like it was for white people. Now, why in the middle of Mason Square would I build something for white people? And I didn't build it by myself. It was a lot of us, but the majority of us were Black and brown people.
Right.
And I appreciate that Mr. Moss started with collective health, because you'll hear the term public health. And that's not a term that's known to us. It is a field of study that is predominantly white. I mean, predominantly white. White people wrote the books, white people run the stories, white people teach it at the University of Massachusetts. At AIC, we do have amazing Black folks that are teaching an undergraduate curriculum in public health. But it's basically the study of the general public, and then within it, sectors of the public. So you'll hear and read about studies about Black women. Most recently, what's been in the news is when our beautiful prince, Chadwick Boseman, lost his life to colorectal cancer. They were talking about the health of Black men. No matter what the disease is, there are huge disparities, and that means big differences. So most familiar to us is diabetes. I've heard older people say, oh, we all got a touch of sugar. We got a little bit of sugar. Black people just get diabetes. Black people do not just get diabetes.
Right.
We do not have the highest diabetes rates in the country and in this state because we're Black. We have them because of the food that we have access to and what we've been conditioned to eat. So don't want to get sued, don't want to pick on McDonald's, I'll be careful. But I live in the McKnight neighborhood of Mason Square, within very close walking distance to DeBerry, to Rebecca Johnson, to Homer Street School. There are 10 McDonald's within 1.75 miles of my house, many of your houses, and those schools, and not a full-serve grocery store, not a farmer's market. There are no McDonald's in Longmeadow. There are no McDonald's in Agawam proper. There is one McDonald's on the fringe of East Longmeadow, but the address is a Springfield address. That is not accidental. It is intentional, and it is unconsciously intentional. Longmeadow doesn't want a McDonald's.
Right.
Springfield likes a McDonald's because it's good tax money, but there's no consideration of the impact on our health. So when I talk about food apartheid, most of us have heard that language. We've heard it talked about in relationship to South Africa. And it is when people are marginalized, disenfranchised, and kept out of something. And we are not in the food system. We don't grow our food unless we're working on other people's farms. We don't know where our food comes from. Turn over the bag of carrots that's 3 for 99 cents and see where it comes from. People in China do not eat the food grown in the ground in China because it is filled with lead. So they send it to us and we buy it cheaply, not knowing that. So the first thing that I want to say is that I can get like wonky and preachy about this, but it is not because I think, oh, I'm so smart and you're not. It is because I love Black people.
Right.
I know who we are and from whence we come. We built the agricultural system in this country.
Absolutely.
Which is the foundation of the economic system in this country, which is the foundation of why we are the richest country and we are the most marginalized people within that rich system. So it's important to understand that the North is just as complicit as the South. Agriculture, we think of it all being grown in the South, right? But who financed the trade? Who gave slave traders the money to build the boats and to make those journeys, who insured those journeys, because they had insurance back then. And all of that can be traced back to institutions, one of them very large that sits on State Street, that is an insurance company that many of us have worked for. I worked there when I was young. And we have family members who've worked there. The early version of that insured the slave boats.
Wow.
Like, I just want y'all to know that and feel that. And it was the banks here that financed the journeys. Men borrowed money to go buy us. And we were the collateral against those loans. And then we came here and were put onto stolen land. So there was an act in the United States called the Indian Removal Act. Many of us of a certain age learned about it in school. It was intentionally created to move people of indigenous descent off of the land to make way for the expansion of the plantation system. That's enough little bit of learning about the land, but understand that land is at the core of food. Because if we don't own land or control land, we can't grow our own food. And if we are not growing our own food, we don't know what's in the dirt or the soil that the food is grown in. So people think about me as this little garden lady because they see me working in a lot near my house on Bay Street. And I push really hard for school gardens. And we have 29 gardens in our elementary schools. And that's really important because it is there that kids learn to grow food.
Right.
But you know, the structures, SPS and Sodexo, they think it's sweet that kids are growing food and that there's this nice little lady who wants to help them grow food. But when a kid puts a cherry tomato in his mouth that he started from seed in his classroom and he eats it and it tastes unlike any other tomato he has eaten in his life, the pride that he feels around that and taking it home to his family and the way it feels in his mouth begins to retrain him around what tastes good and what's good for me. Doesn't mean I don't want French fries. My son loves a French fry as much as any other kid.
Right.
But he also takes great pride when he stands next to me and helps me clean the collard greens that we're going to put out for our neighbors to take. And he recognizes that he is changing their health. So I want to just take a break and let you sit with that and give Dr. Banks a chance to grab whatever she wants to grab. But I want you to hear, we are not doomed to have diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and we have the highest rates of them in the state of Massachusetts and in most places that we live in the United States. But we have them because we don't have access to the foods we historically ate as a people, the foods that we taught this country how to grow. My maiden name is Wills. That's English. It's the plantation my daddy's people came off of. Ogilvy is Irish. That was my husband's father's name, and it was the Irish-owned plantation that his family walked off of in Jamaica. Now tell me what a white man from England and a white man from Ireland or Scotland, because the name could be both, knew about growing anything in the heat.
Absolutely nothing.
So it is not just the Black labor that built this United States. It is Black intellect, Black knowledge that has been with us since we have been here, which was before they were here. And this is my land. That crazy man is living in my house that my ancestors built, and I want it back.
Woo.
And a pathway to that is land ownership and understanding our food so we can keep ourselves healthy and get back what is ours. And what it's our indigenous cousins.
Absolutely. Justin. Can you hear Justin? Okay. So you obviously know more about, you know, we talk about natural food. And Miss Ogilvy, you're not off the hook yet because we talk about gardening. I want to know about the process of gardening. Justin, you're familiar with it. You know, my girlfriend had a beautiful garden outside. And it was amazing watching her start her garden from the soil to everything, all the natural, what do you call that stuff that you put in it to cultivate the garden and give it strength. But I'm not, again, I don't know a lot about it. I'm sitting here watching her going, wow. But Justin, talk to me. As Miss O'Gilby talks to Liz, I'm going to call her Auntie Liz.
Excellent.
All right. Auntie Liz talks about food apartheid, land ownership, growing natural food. Talk a little bit about that in terms of what you do, with our journeys, and you guys help people to develop their diets. Talk about why it's so important in terms of physical and mental health, in terms of your clients. Talk about why people should be growing gardens and growing their food. And at the same time, politically speaking, should be lobbying city government to attract developers who will come in and create opportunities for people to have access to real food. And then I need you and Mr. O'Gilby to tell me, when I say real food, what exactly is real food? I just dropped a lot of it on you, so I'm gonna be quiet and let you guys roll.
Yeah, so first and foremost, we have to take more ownership of our health, because the system that we're working in, like I said last week, is Eurocentric, right? And so what that means is it's based off the European body. Even though that video that we watched, a lot of the studies we were the test dummies for these studies. It's a Eurocentric view. When we create our own plan, and we're able to understand that, first of all, our biology is a little bit different than theirs. That is just how, when you deal with people from different ends of the earth, you have different disparities. There's something that we call disparity research, right? That Liz O'Gilby talked about, right? And that basically says that different demographics, whether it's male and female, right, can have more likelihood of heart disease or cancer, whatever the case may be. And then you can have race as one of the disparities.
Slow down so we can catch it all. Slow down. Some of us I literally don't know anything about half of this stuff, so I'm trying to take it in. So just slow down. There you go.
So our system that we're currently in, our medical westernized allopathic medicine, is what you would call Eurocentric. And so we have to take control of our health, because, like I said last week, there's three barriers to health, or three layers to health, rather. There's preventative, there's your primary care, and there's emergency room. And so we as a people have to focus on preventative, because of the fact that your primary care is rooted in a Eurocentric biology, right? And then the emergency room is the same thing. So when I work with people at our journey, I had to kind of research and learn and unlearn lab certifications of personal training, strength and conditioning, plant-based nutrition, and healthy lifestyles, right? And that came from a white institution, right? NASM is one of the leaders in personal training and also strength and conditioning, and also they do nutrition. So I had to unlearn some of these things and some of these foundations. And so when I'm working with my clients here, it's teaching them that their body is different, because about 98% of my clients are brown people, African Americans, or Latinos, right? And so now they come from their doctor, right? And their doctor telling them, guess what? You can never get off your diabetes medication, right? Mm-hmm. But in the books, it says that diabetes is a lifestyle disease, right? So if you change your lifestyle, you might be able to do what? Get off the medication. And so I have to now do one of the most important things, is actually act upon the information that is given to them by their doctor, meaning that I have to show them that their lifestyle change will reverse not all diseases, but some of these preventative diseases, right? And so when people come into here, we talk about lifestyle change, and that is preventative health, and that's one of the most important things. And when we talk about real food isn't discussed in medical school, right? We go through this all the time. If you ask a doctor how many hours of nutrition they took within the odd years, I think there are about 6 years of education, and then another 2 years that actually doing their residency and things like that, how many hours of nutrition they took. They can tell you less than 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But these diseases that they're diagnosing our black people with, heart disease, leader, diabetes, and complications due to diabetes, are said to be things that you can not always reverse, but help manage through lifestyle. And one of the things in lifestyle is nutrition. So our doctors don't know how to prevent these things from happening. And so we have to focus on preventative measures, which we understand. Real food is one of the most important things to understand when it comes to preventative measures. Liz O'Gilby has a, Miss Liz, I call you Miss Liz. We have to deal with that. Has a beautiful garden. Helped us build a garden in the back of an apartment complex, and we have a garden in our journey as well. When you deal with real food, you're dealing with nutrition. Nutrition, essential minerals. Those things are the building blocks to our body. Bone health. It's the simple stuff. Bone health is all nutrition, all vitamins and essential minerals, right? And what happens as we get older? We lose our bone density.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because most people don't understand that is a Western thing. Losing bone density as you get older is a Western concept, right? Because if you go and look at the research online, don't take my word for it. If you look at other industrialized nations, right, that have a different medical system that doesn't only focus on pharmaceuticals, but also focuses on nutrition, right, and farming and things of that nature. You have Japan, you have some areas and provinces in China as well. You can look at the rate at which their elderly are going for issues such as fractures and things of that nature. It's much lower than America, right?
Okay,
So,
Justin, Justin,
yeah.
I need you to bring it back. I love where you're going. We're gonna get to all that. We got a we're gonna be on every. You and I are on every Wednesday.
Mhm.
I want to get back to food apartheid. So, with everything you said, so as you're talking about preventative measures, sometimes it's almost as simple as people kind of staying away from fast food restaurants and relying on foods that are growing in their gardens. Am I correct? If we don't have a full service, what do you call it? A full service store?
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted. Liz, you're muted.
I muted myself because I thought it might help with Justin's background.
Okay.
So I use the term full service grocery store. And what I mean by that is that I could go into the grocery store and buy whatever product that is culturally relevant to me. So I'll pick on Big Y. If we have people of Caribbean descent, Southeast Asian descent, Latinx from the diaspora all over, Black people from the diaspora all over, we have recent African immigrants.
Yep.
But we cannot go into a grocery store, one singular grocery store, and buy bok choy, which is a very easy, quick to cook, easy to grow green that more people of Asian descent are familiar with than we are. We can't find callaloo, which is a green that is common in the African diaspora. Lots of Caribbeans know it. It grows wild in some parts of Springfield. We can't even recognize it as something that we need to eat. We can buy collard greens because they've learned that we'll buy them. Right. And they make good profit on it. But we don't know where they were grown or what they were sprayed with.
Oh,
and pesticides are a huge piece of this. And people will say, well, you can't grow if you don't spray. If you drive by my garden right now,
right
on the corner of Bay and Dartmouth, you will see tomatoes, even though we've had a frost. You will see collard greens. You will see cabbage, some of which chewed up because I left it for the bunnies that were trying to eat everything. I grew black-eyed peas this year and South Carolina red peas. The drought was rough and the heat was hot, but I'll be feeding my family black-eyed peas this winter that grew in that soil. Now, all soil is not good soil. So where my garden is was where the homestead of Primus Mason, for whom our our neighborhood is named. And you need to do a show on that, Mr. Moss, because people don't even realize where that name came from, who that black man was. And when we bought our house, we did not realize that we were buying his daughter's house, and that what looked like a hot mess next to us where my garden now grows. Those of you who've been in Springfield a minute will remember there were toilets and mattresses. And Brother Moss and I did not start out in the most loving relationship, because I was calling him every other week for 2 years to get that lot cleaned up. He always followed through, but I didn't understand that, he couldn't go and drive the truck over here and clean it up. All he could do was make sure it stayed in the queue. And I bought it just because I was sick of cleaning it up for free. Black people, you can buy, if you live next to a lot, if there is a lot that touches your property line that abuts you,
Absolutely.
you can buy it very relatively inexpensively from the city.
Absolutely.
And I will teach you how to test your sister Anna Muhammad. Some of you know her. Will come out and do a soil test, and we will teach you what you need to do to get healthy soil so you can grow your own food. This year, the Food Policy Council put 56 backyard gardens in for folks. We gave them raised beds, we gave them the soil that was organic, and we gave them the seedlings, because they can't grow everything they need, but they grew a whole lot of what they wanted. And food apartheid, go ahead.
I just have a question. So I'm sorry, Justin, I'm gonna get right back to you. Oh, wrong one. Wait a minute. Here we go. Okay. So we had a garden. Now, the program that you have, is it a program or something where they come in and help people to set up their gardens? And how does that work?
The way this happened was because all this money was going into food banks. And I lived very much in the real world. There were people who needed a bag of food to go home and feed their family. But to create a new structure, you have to get at root cause. So you think about a tree. If the tree starts to look sick, the tree is not sick from the leaves. The leaves falling off the tree let you know the tree is sick. The tree is sick at the root. And you don't even have to know a lot about plants. Just think about a tree or a plant that you had growing in a pot. We think the sickness is in the leaves, but the sickness is in the root. So food apartheid exists because the roots of our food system are sick. White people will say the food system is broken. It's not broken. It was designed to meet the need of certain people like everything else in America, and it works really well. So when Justin talks about food-related preventable disease, he's right in that we can't restore everyone to complete health. If you are diagnosed with diabetes when you're 60 years old, you have probably had it for a while. You can get to better health by changing your diet, and you may have to give yourself insulin for a period of time. But Justin and I both know a woman who wouldn't mind us saying her name, Miss Awilda Sanchez, who lots of you know. And she's a parent facilitator at Brookings Elementary School. She was insulin dependent until she started coming to Gardening the Community, learning about her food, learning about the foods that would be better for her to eat. And then she spent some time with Justin, learning more. And now she no longer takes insulin. And she's on the other side of 60. So, but think about the preventable part, because even if folks say, well, I've been eating the way I've been eating for all these years and I don't know if I can change. Think about our children. I know an 11-year-old boy, a Black child, who lost his leg from the knee down due to diabetes. Now, there's two kinds of diabetes, and this hurts me so bad. There's the autoimmune kind that they haven't figured out why people get. More white children get that than Black children. But more of our children suffer from the same kind of diabetes that is typically called adult onset. And that's a lifestyle related diabetes. And I am not judging. I want you to hear me say clearly that language is their language. It's public health language. It is not my language. I understand that our lifestyles are informed by where we live. In public health, you'll hear people talk about social determinants of health.
Yep.
When they say that, what they mean, what the social determinants are, the places where we eat, where we live, where we work, where we play, where we spend our whole lives. So if you understand that I have 10 McDonald's within 1.75 miles of my house, and until recently, very little food visibly growing that would make me want to access that food or grow my own or introduce it to my children, those are the places where we eat, we work, and our children play. And my son reminds me that his work is his school. So our children are working at school.
Yeah.
And they're working with food that is not meant to be fuel for them. So when Dr. Banks talks more, and when you have folks on who are talking about our mental developmental health, think about when you're hungry at your desk, at your workspace, standing behind the counter at Walgreens, wherever you work, how hard it is to concentrate. And we talk about getting the itis in our community. And typically we get it after we've had a buttload of macaroni and cheese and fried chicken, and then we doze off. And Justin will explain far better than I can why that happens. But think about when you were young, if you were a certain age, and you got sent down south, and the food you ate at your grandmama's table and how you could play all day long. It was because you were taking in fuel. People will tell me, Miss Liz, I feel so good after I cooked them collard greens and I did what you told me. I didn't put a ham hock in there. You know, I needed a little meat. So I got me some smoked turkey. And I used some veggie broth like you taught me, and I sauteed some peppers, and those greens were good. And I felt good after I ate them. And so that's what I say. Pay attention to how you feel when you put certain things in your body. Yes, fried chicken is a part of our culture, but we had it on Sundays, and not every single Sunday. We didn't sit in a line, and I'm going to name the name, and I don't care if they try to sue me, at KFC, who does nothing for our community except extract. We have got to stop supporting when folks take from us and don't give anything back. The Food Policy Council is a nonprofit. So I went on my rant online about the food banks getting all this money, but we weren't doing anything to get at root cause, because that's a cycle. It's a white charity cycle that we're all comfortable with. And Black folks work on the front lines at those pantries, feeding people hard. And I lift them up and hold them up because they are keeping us from just severe abject hunger. But they don't control the food they get. White men and white women run all of the food banks in Massachusetts. And that's where the food comes from. That's who decides what the food pantries get. And they think we need volume. And I've had white people look at me who would call themselves my ally and my friend and say, well, this is what Black people want. And don't think they've caused any harm. Don't think they've caused a wound. Don't even realize what they have told me about what they think they know about mine.
Right.
Because I'm yours and you're mine.
Right.
And if we understand that, then we can hear each other and learn from each other. And people will say, well, look at her. She ain't but so big. How's she going to tell me what I need to eat?
Right.
This is not about your physical size. I know women who weigh 100 pounds more than me who can outwork me, who can outrun me, who can outlift me, because they are strong and fit and healthy. More Black people die every day in this city, in Springfield, from food-related preventable disease than anything else, including gun violence. Every single day, Black lives are shortened because we don't just get diabetes and have diabetes and try to navigate it. You get diabetes and you don't change the way you're living and eating, you will not live as long as the Black woman sitting next to you or the Black man sitting next to you, same age, same neighborhood, but makes different food choices. These are life-shortening diseases, Black people. It is not just something for us to accept and live with. And our children should not be losing their limbs from a food-related preventable disease. That's the only thing we should be shamed of. Not shame because we don't have enough money to buy the right food. Not shame because we're making food choices that we didn't know were bad for us. Let go of that shame. You don't need to be embarrassed because you have to go to a food pantry line. You don't need to be embarrassed because you're on SNAP, because I want to tell you about HIP, which most of us don't know. But that is a structural thing that was created. And I don't care if you get 5 different EBT cards in your home. The debt that is owed to us can never be repaid through public benefits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ooh. I'm about to have you on more, Auntie Liz.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. Because I want to make sure that everybody is listening. Because you know what? I've been a part of so many different types of discussions, talking about things that impact the Black community. And some of the things I'm hearing you say are some of the first times I've ever heard anybody say it. So we can't talk about, empowering our community if we're not talking about the most essential aspects of the quality of our life. And that boils down to our diet, what we put into our bodies, and how it impacts us. So
So let me say something about HIP real quick, because sometimes people get hungry and they're going to leave, and I want them to know this. Anybody in the state of Massachusetts who receives a SNAP benefit, which most of us tend to think of as food stamps, because when they first came out, it was a paper thing that we had to go use at the store. If you have an EBT card, you have an extra benefit. The acronym, the short way of talking about it is HIP. It stands for Healthy Incentive Project or Program. And it is state funded. That means the legislature, our state Representative Bud Williams supported this forever. Representative Gonzalez, and I know that our new senator is going to learn all about all these food things, because I'm going to chase him till he does, so he knows what to vote for and what not to vote for. So the state created this program. It was piloted. That means it was started and tested right here in Springfield at Gardening the Community.
Wow.
But we in Springfield have the lowest HIP usage in the state. The benefit cannot be used in a grocery store. It can only be used at a farmer's market, at a mobile market. Some of you have seen the Go Fresh mobile market. It's a big van. They drive around. You can use it there. And you can use it at a farm store, like Gardening the Community. So you could go to the farmer's market they have at Stick. You could go to the farmer's market that they have in Forest Park, even though they don't love us and welcome us the way they should over there. And you can go to GTC. The smallest amount of this monthly benefit that comes back every month is $40. So if your grandma's, a lot of seniors get a very small SNAP benefit if they get one at all. And they might only get $20 a month. But during the growing season, which is generally March to like December, even they get an extra $40 that they can use at these locations: farm stands, farm stores, farmers markets. And you don't have to use it at the ones in Springfield. So if you're on the road in Hadley or going somewhere, can't use it in Connecticut, you can only use it in Massachusetts, and you see somebody with a farm stand and they have a sign, "We accept HIP," stop and buy what they are selling, because the majority of Massachusetts farmers are not using significant pesticides. And small farmers just don't use them because we know we don't need them.
Right. Okay.
You can go, and this is the other piece. If you are, because we're at the end of the month. You may have $2 right now or $1 on your EBT card left. If you have not shopped at one of those places that I mentioned, you still got $40. Y'all need to call everybody you know tomorrow and tell them this. And if they go to GTC, they will run that card over and over, because the way it works, as soon as you run it, it comes right back on the card.
Okay.
So you go there and buy $15 worth of food, they're gonna run your card 15 times, but you're gonna get your $15.
Okay.
And then depending on your family size, that benefit could go up to $80 a month. And we are leaving it. And it's reinforcing for the state that we don't want to buy fresh produce. And this was something that I spent 6 years of my life advocating to make sure we got. And the last many years advocating to make sure that more Black and brown people could be the vendors, could actually accept it. And now the Food Policy Council can. So we started a farm, 40 acres farm this year, and we're growing on scattered sites throughout the city. So next year we will be able to, we'll have pop-up markets all over the city. And I'll make sure that Mr. Moss and Dr. Banks and Dr. Paula and everybody, Pookie and everybody else, is telling their friends a story. Stop being shamed because you got food stamps, and exercise that, because it's economic power. And when you spend that money at a place like Guarding the Community or Go Fresh Mobile Market, you are making us stronger, because those dollars are staying in our community. And then you can go spend your $40 buying whatever other healthy things Justin tells you to buy, like couscous and quinoa, and you can learn how to make that tasty too. But use that HIP. I am Liz at SpringfieldFoodPolicyCouncil.org. If you Google Liz Ogilvie, I don't do much on social media, you will find me. People either call me Auntie Liz, Cousin Liz, Miss Liz, the healthy food lady, the garden lady, the collard green lady. I don't care what you call me, but you reach out to me, because we need to be saving ourselves.
Miss Ogilvie, can I ask you a question?
Please.
When is the best time to start a garden?
Early spring. I start, so the gardens that we gave people, you asked me about.
Yeah.
So when I wrote my rant, a white friend who has significant resource and has a family foundation saw it and reached out to me, because I was ranting about the food banks were giving. And she said, should I give them more money? And I didn't say anything, because this is somebody who is dear to me, but I'm thinking, why would you give them more money to buy more bad food? And then they thought about it for a minute, and they reached out to me a few days later and said, well, what if I gave you this money? What would you do? And I said, I would give people coupons so they could go to Guarding the Community and learn about HIP, because you get your food free one time, and then you can use your HIP money and keep buying it for yourself. And she said, well, what else would you do? And I said, well, I'd give anybody who wanted to a garden in the backyard. Didn't know anything about putting a garden in anybody's backyard. I grow in the ground. I didn't know how to build garden boxes or soil or any of that.
Right.
But a Black friend named Leah Penniman, who has a farm called Soul Fire Farm in upstate New York, she wrote a book, Farming While Black. All the money she makes from it, she gives to Black farmers in the South. She's my sister friend, and she taught me all this. So if somebody wants to grow a garden next year, we're going to teach you everything starting in January.
Well, here's why I asked that question. Sometime around January, February, can we bring you on for all the folks? I'll reach out, I'll advertise to all the Black folks who have gardens, who are trying to start gardens, who have maybe done it once and trying to figure out what they did wrong, and see if we can get some group sessions going where people can actually learn this.
We will.
In the comfort of their home, and then eventually they can move forward.
If you're afraid to start with seeds, I commit.
Okay.
And I'm saying this publicly, and people know me. I keep my word. I don't care if you got $10. I'm going to help you get a backyard garden. I don't care if you think you can't even deal with a seed. I'm going to bring you seedlings that either I start in my greenhouse in my backyard, or I get from other folks, because I don't give anybody anything that I don't know where it comes from to grow. I'm going to help you get some healthy dirt. We're going to test your soil. So nobody will have an excuse not to have their own collard greens this time next year. My children, our children in these 29 school gardens grew the collard greens that were on their Thanksgiving tables last year. Don't tell me that doesn't change how you think about yourself.
I'd like YSET to be the 30th garden. No, I'm serious.
Well, you're going to be 30. I'm already at 56.
Oh, no. Wait. No, I'm 26. That's not where I'm at. I thought you said 29 gardens.
Oh, school gardens. Those are the
school gardens. I have a nonprofit, and thanks to Daryl Moss, we're moving to have an elementary school. And one of the science programs that I've been really looking into is to have, they have these big freights where they place the freight on the actual campus of the school, and the students go into the freight and do gardening and experiments with food. So that's not my forte. I'm vegan, but I don't know how to grow food. I was raised in this food desert. So I'm saying that to say it would be wonderful to have your expertise. So that's why I've said, let YSET be the 30th.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. I hear you. And we don't grow as much food as we have. Close to 600 vacant lots in this city. More than 400 of them have the right amount of sun, access to water for us to grow food. Don't tell me Black people can't feed ourselves and employ ourselves while we're doing it. Employ ourselves. And what happened to us when we were kidnapped and enslaved happened on the soil. It is not because of the soil. And don't think that Mother Earth is not waiting for us to come make her healthy again. Because white farmers are not doing that.
Well, it's our time. It's our time for a lot of things. And I think the conversation will change the narrative and inspire new thought, new action. And I think that's my thing moving forward. People need this information. We need to repeat it over and over. The good thing about this medium here is we, unlike television, we can take this and reshare it until people get it and digest it and move towards what you're talking about. And I asked Dr. Starnes to join us. Hello, Dr. Starnes. I know you had a long day. And Dr. Banks, I see you. We're going to get to the physical therapy part. I promise you. But Dr. Starnes, I want you to speak on that paper that you said, the paper that you published on bad foods.
Okay. I really appreciate Miss Ogilvy, Auntie Ogilvy, is it?
Miss Liz.
Liz.
Wait. Dr. Liz.
I think I'm old enough to be, I'm not old enough to be Mr. Moss's auntie, but auntie is not about biology or chronology.
I get that.
So when somebody calls me auntie, I know they have made me theirs. So you could be 10 years older than me and call me auntie if you're going to make me yours.
Right, Liz.
Let me tell you, Carolyn Jackson, who works in my office, might have me by maybe 8 or 9 years, like my oldest brother, but she's still like my auntie. Because when she speaks, I shut up and I go, yes, ma'am. And you got that vibe. So with that, Dr. Starr.
I'm excited about being here because there are so many myths that are spewed at our people. And one of the myths I just want to talk about right now is genetics. We are told by doctors that you are prone, and that's not totally a lie, but you're prone to get certain diseases if your families have these diseases. But here's the thing with genetics. You are only prone if you follow the behaviors of those who preceded you. You do not have to get the diseases of your kinfolk. If you change your diet, that is the cure. They, meaning the American Medical Association, doctors who are somewhat ignorant about nutrition, they will have you believe that by taking medication, i.e. drugs, you'll be able to escape that plight. This is a lie. if you take these drugs and do not change your food intake, in other words, if you got the disease, and I'll give you one disease, but I can name them all inflammatory diseases, but I'll just name one that we pretty much can identify with, I suppose. Diabetes. If you have diabetes, you ate your way to diabetes. If you don't change the way you're eating, you're going to take insulin until you lose your limbs, until you lose your eyesight.
Dr. Starnes,
Yes.
Lizzo Gilby done schooled us on the impact of diabetes. Justin Yarde also got us. Let's move on to the next one because we got the diabetes. We ain't got it fully, but we're gonna get it. But go ahead.
Well, here's the great thing, and I just tuned in, so I didn't hear about the diabetes, but
It's okay.
ladies and gentlemen, it's all the same. All of these diseases are diseases of your fork, of what you're eating. You did not get these diseases because of your genes. Now, let me explain the connection between the disease and the gene. If subject A and subject B eat the same poor foods, subject A might come up with heart disease and subject B might come up with gout. The reason why they come up with two different diseases, even though they're eating the same diet, is because their family gene pool is what sent them in that direction. But what I'm telling you, people, is that you don't have to get either one of the diseases if you change your diet. Now, that's another lesson, because we have been lied to about what a good diet is. We've been lied to that if we eat baked chicken and we eat this and we eat that, we'll be fine. They're lying. And so this conversation is just scratching the surface. But what I really just needed you to know is that you are not guaranteed to get a disease because of your genetics. Your genetics are directly linked to the foods that you're eating. Genetics can be activated by poor food, which causes the disease. I hope that was plain. I hope I didn't make it complicated. And that's it.
No, that's not complicated. Whew. Okay. Kind of dropped the mic on me.
Yep.
I was like,
that's it. Listen, I'm a high school teacher. I know if I talk too much, people will tune me out. So I say what I have to say and I get out of there.
so let me ask you guys this, Justin, Liz, Dr. Starnes, Katrina as well. How often should we be having this conversation about diet? I mean, we're looking to have a comment. Justin and I talked about having this conversation every week about Black health. But I'm wondering, should there just be like a separate broadcast on a weekly basis, just really talking about diet?
I have the answer to that.
I'm listening. Help me.
There's a one answer, and this is the answer. If we had a discussion where we could get some good tasting collard greens that taste like it's seasoned and that good food is being had that is linked to what we're talking about, then that makes the difference. Because too often are we brainwashed to think that healthy food is nasty. If you have seasoned food, if you season your food, it's good. So anyway, the answer that I have for this is if our discussion could then link people to how they can get some food. Like if we had gatherings like Daryl Moss's run to become mayor, and we had all this food that we could give to people that taste real good, then that would make sense for us to have these discussions. But
that was smooth, Dr. Starnes. I like the way you said that in there. He had a delay. Like I'm watching everybody. It took a minute before it hit, and then he was like, very good. And I'm feeling disease of the fork, because that's one, Brother Daryl, to be using disease of the fork. And someone put in the chat that they were convinced that what they ate impacted their mental health. So I wonder if Dr. Starnes can talk a little bit about sugar.
That person, whoever put that in the chat, is absolutely right. The inflammation, let's go there. Inflammation is the cause of disease. There's so many inflammatory conditions that sprout from the food. Now, when you're linking table sugar and you're linking this poisonous food that causes the inflammation, because it's all a culmination, that affects your mental health, that affects your physical health. So all of your issues, and I know the doctor will tell you, listen, you're manic depressive, you're schizophrenic, and I'm not saying, now please hear me, I'm not saying that those issues are not real. I'm not saying heart disease isn't real. I'm not saying diabetes. All of the diseases are real. But what I can tell you is that the medication, and I'm not going to call it they're the drugs that the pharmaceutical companies are selling you, those drugs, they cannot tell you legally that they're going to cure you, because those drugs don't cure you. The government, let me break this down just a tad. When I went to Western New England College in my young years, I'm still young, but in my young years, I double majored in political science and communications. In my poli-sci book, it said the government makes money off of the sick. That freaked me out. I said, well, what in the world? What causes people to get sick? It's the food, right? So what they do is they, meaning the government and the AMA, American Medical Association, they treat you until you die. They hope you stay alive long enough so that they could sell you these drugs, because they're the biggest drug dealers in the world. So they can sell you these drugs. You take these drugs every day, trash bags of drugs. You're not cured, but you're taking the drugs constantly. And they're making money off of you. They're making money off of you. Even those of you with mental illness, they make money off of you with your psychiatrist, your therapist, your drugs. They've got all of these money makers that are leeching from you. And then you die miserably. So I could talk on and on about this, but I want to drop the mic again because I don't want to lose your attention. So to answer the question directly, there is a connection between sugars and foods and inflammation, all causing the disease of your body and your mental stability. None of the medication is going to cure you, so you're wasting your time. Am I telling you to stop taking the medication? Definitely not. I'm not telling you to stop. But what I'm telling you is, if you would change your diet, and we need to get into that at some point, what a real good diet really is. Not baked chicken and turkey and fish. I'm not talking about that. Once you change your diet, you can get off the drugs, and you can go to a doctor, and the doctor can tell you that your levels have normalized. You can get tested, and the doctors will show you that, oh, wow, what are you doing? Are you walking more? Are you drinking more water? No, the doctor will tell you that it is fine for you to get off of those medications, and you can live a life that's healthy and life that's of more quality. So I'm going to stop right there. I hope I answered your question. Inflammation, sugar, all of that poison. It's all about the disease of the fork. It's all about, making changes.
I just want to touch on something that Dr. Starnes says and make another commitment. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier in the summer. I don't know why Brother Justin didn't tell me to do this, because he can be bossy. Next year, everybody's not going to get a garden next year. But I will make a commitment, and we may still be living with social distancing next year. But I will make a commitment, if we are not living with social distancing, the Food Policy Council will host this real life, in person, and we will feed people. I'll charge you $1 because people need to pay for something. But $1, we can all come up with $1. We will feed you a meal that is prepared with food that is locally grown, cooked without a lot of high fat and salt and sugar, because it's body memory, Dr. Starnes. I think our brains are so connected to our physiology that when we get a good lesson and it's being reinforced by what we eat, I think I think that was just a moment of brilliance. Then we are much more likely to go try that again.
That's right.
And We'll send you home with a mason jar of collard greens so the memory gets reinforced the next day when you wake up thinking about them and wish you had some more, or turnip greens or mustard greens. And if we're still doing social distancing, I will host these in my garden in the spring so people can be the distance we need to be apart. Remember what it felt like to eat something outside with the air blowing across your face. Look over and see that what you were eating came out of that soil. Don't you think, Dr. Banks and Dr. Paula, that people will feel that? So when Dr. Paula teaches us about physical therapy and makes the connection to sugar, and you can get the calcium and the iron and everything else that you need from vegetables. You don't need a big hunk of meat. We like big hunks of meat because for a lot of our generations, we didn't have them. And we connect that with success. We connect it with affluence. We connect it, but my rich white friends don't eat big hunks of meat. They raise chickens and they go get their own eggs that don't taste anything like the eggs we eat in the grocery store. And they grow their own food. I have a white friend in Northampton who grew the same southern red peas that I grew, and she bought them from the same black farmer in Philly. It takes Mr. Moss, so I think you should seize the opportunity, Dr. Banks, and jump in.
Absolutely. Oh, I do have a question for you, Miss Liz. I have a question. How often can someone come by and get that meal for $1?
Well, I'm going to have to figure out the money behind that. This is, I have to raise every penny. But I will say to you, this is another thing. The Food Policy Council had a budget. That means my salary and the salaries of all the parents that I pay. And I pay the people who get stipends, the young people who work. I pay them more than I pay myself because I value them at that level. And our budget last year, our budget this year is under $100,000. Our budget last year was under $50,000. Ask yourself what these organizations led by people who look like us, who get huge appropriations, huge gifts from institutions like Mass Mutual. During the COVID response, the Food Policy Council raised $125,000, and every penny of it went to pay colored farmers, people of color, to bring boxes of food, boxes of produce into Springfield, and we distributed them at school meal sites. So 400 families got a box of fresh organic produce every week since May. Other organizations are going to have close to $1 million budget this year, and what did they do to help restore us to health? And we need to ask ourselves those hard questions, but I will figure it out. I will figure it out, Brother Moss. I may have to charge y'all $2. But we're going to figure out how to feed people so we could have at least monthly dinners. Because that's the other thing that we've lost. We don't know how to sit and be with each other and eat and share good food and talk about it. And remember, we have to reclaim. This is not just us teaching. It is reclaiming your food memory. Even if your mama didn't cook and your grandmamas didn't cook, their mothers and their grandmothers did. And that's in us. That's our genetics, Dr. Paula.
All right. And you know what I'm thinking? Now, pre-pandemic, I used to host what is called Dinner and Dialogue. Katrina, Justin, you guys.
Yes, I went to some of those.
You've been to some of those. And I tell you, I'm going to make a commitment because typically I have to cook what we traditionally call soul food, a lot of unhealthy fried stuff and mac and cheese and everything. I'm going to commit post-pandemic or whenever they open it back up, when we have Dinner and Dialogue, that we bring in nothing but healthy food. And when it comes down to the food, I'm going to call you and Justin first to make sure that everything we have coming in meets your approval. Is that okay, Miss Liz?
It is, because if we can't find it, Brother Justin going to help me cook it.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. So that part of the conversation isn't over. We'll come back to it because I'm sure what Dr. Banks has to say really adds in. She's a physical therapist, licensed physical therapist. She has her own space. And I don't know anything about physical therapy, but I do know that it's necessary for the body. She can explain it better than I can. I have one of my little mentees with me, my man George. He's gonna sit here and listen in on the conversation. So eventually he can take over one of these shows and run it anyways, because nobody wants to hear this whole voice. So with that being said, Dr. Banks, introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are and what you do and why it's necessary.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Daryl Moss, for the invite. I'm super excited to be here and great to be on this platform. I'm actually a Springfield native. I'm a registered physical therapist. I've been doing this for 11 years. I'm board certified neurologic physical therapist through the American Board of Physical Therapy Specialties. I recently launched my new business named Neurologic Optimal Wellness Physical Therapy, which is located here in Springfield. And it's actually an outpatient clinic that tailors to neurologic disorders and musculoskeletal orthopedic disorders. And the great thing about it is that I come to you to provide services. So what I want to talk about tonight is there's a lot of people that don't know what I do or what a physical therapist does. So I'm going to be talking about what is physical therapy, what do physical therapists do, the different types of physical therapy specialties out there that are available, and talk about the benefits of why you should be going to physical therapy, and also some of the barriers that I see working as a Black PT and some of the racial differences in physical therapy outcomes. So as far as what is a physical therapist and what I do on a regular basis, I'm basically a movement expert that evaluates and treats disorders of the human body. And what we do is we care for people of all ages who have functional problems resulting from back and neck injuries, any sprains, strains, fractures, arthritis, amputations, neurologic disorders such as stroke or cerebral palsy, or any injuries that are related to work and sports or any other conditions. As far as a PT, we use a variety of techniques, and those techniques can include exercise, training and functional movement, which may include using equipment such as crutches, canes, wheelchairs, and walkers, and special movements of joints like manipulation, muscles, and other soft tissue to improve mobility and decrease pain. So it's always part of the State Practice Act as a physical therapist to talk about health and wellness. So I always make it a part of my evaluation to not to just treat the ailment that my client comes in with, but to also question what and how they're eating, what their stress level is like, what their sleep level is like, and how physically active they are. And I also talk about that nutrition part because, again, as we've discussed tonight, eating unprocessed foods and sugar causes inflammation within the body. So when that happens, then you have an ache and pain that you're walking around with. So I think what stems from that is a limited mindset, which we kind of talked about tonight, the lack of education, the financial strain that some of us do suffer, and a limited access to food. So like we talked about tonight, the Trader Joe's is in Hadley. There's no Trader Joe's in the Springfield area. So those are some things that, are very important that I do talk about with my clients because, again, health and wellness plays into your daily life. As far as the types of physical therapy, there's a lot of specialties out there. The most common one is orthopedic, which treats musculoskeletal injuries, which includes the muscles, the bones, ligaments, and tendons. So if you have a tendonitis or a fracture, orthopedic physical therapist would tend to that. A geriatric physical therapist is a PT that would help older patients who develop conditions like Alzheimer's or osteoporosis, or also with hip and joint replacements, balance disorders, or incontinence. Neurologic physical therapy, which is my specialty. We help people with neurologic disorders and conditions like Alzheimer's, brain injury, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, spinal cord injury, and stroke. Treatment may also aim to increase limb responsiveness, to treat paralysis and reverse or increase muscle strength by reducing muscle atrophy. So if you're not using your muscles shrink. There's cardiovascular and pulmonary rehab. So if someone had recent heart surgery or a heart attack, they can go through physical therapy treatment for physical endurance. There's pediatric physical therapy, which their focus is more on children or treating diseases or conditions that affects infants, children, and adolescents, including developmental delay, spina bifida, torticollis. There's vestibular therapy, which I do also treat as well, and that's to treat balance disorders that can affect your inner ear. There's pelvic floor rehab as well, which can help treat urinary or fecal incontinence, urinary urgency, and pelvic pain in men and women with injuries due to surgery or maybe childbirth.
Okay.
Any questions so far on the types of physical therapy? There's a lot out there that a lot of people don't even think about.
So how would I know when I would need to go see a physical therapist? I mean, is it something I'd have to be, would I need a referral to go see you? I wake up, something's bothering me. How would I know whether to go to a physical therapist, a general practitioner, I don't know, a massage? When would I go see you?
So I think as a PT, I think we're underutilized because a lot of people don't know what we do.
Right.
So you can go to a physical therapist in Massachusetts without even going to your doctor. It's direct access. So if you have a ache and pain and your knee's bothering you, you can find a physical therapist and set up an appointment. Now, most times when you go to the doctor, they'll give you medication first. They don't even think about PT. Some they'll refer you, but most times they'll give you medication, and they're not movement experts. So of course you take the medication, you go on your way, but you can go to a physical therapist when you feel like it. And most times it's underutilized. Most people don't know what we do. So that's where my job comes in, where I need to educate on what we do and how we can help people, because it's really, really underutilized.
So Dr. Banks, you're saying that if
Yep.
my knees are hurting and I notice at different times they hurt more, I'm gonna make one point here. If you start feeling achier more when you start feeling achy, pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And think about what you ate, because I'm very sugar sensitive. So, but I like pie. I'm just gonna tell the truth.
Okay.
And I don't have good restraint. And my husband and my son don't like pie. So if I know I buy a pie, I know who's gonna eat the whole pie. And 2 days later, my knee will be hurting. I know it's because I ate all that pie.
Absolutely.
But you're saying that even if I don't know all that yet, but I've been feeling like I've been feeling, and I'm thinking, do I have to hurt when I'm 35 years old? Is this what it's gonna be like for the rest of my life? I don't have to call my doctor and say, I'm achy, I wanna go to a physical therapist.
Nope, not in Massachusetts.
And that's true, even if I have Mass Health, I can call you up.
You can call me up. You want to make sure that physical therapist is taking your insurance. Like some don't. So like, for example, myself, I'm an out-of-network provider because I don't want to have to follow all the rules of insurance, because insurance dictates how many treatments you can see someone, or they may stop paying when the client may need more physical therapy sessions. So I'm out-of-network, which means I can see you for an hour, for 6 weeks, and not have to worry about insurance cutting you off,
Nice. I think that's really important information for people to know, because I didn't know that. I've seen a physical therapist, but I perceive that I have to call my primary care physician has never said, you don't need to call me.
Nope. So it's a direct access.
And he's a good doctor and been my doctor for a long time. The other question I have for you is, do you think there are disparities between Black folks knowing about physical therapy and using it versus white folks?
Absolutely. I was actually going to talk about that as well. So I had because that was one of my topics tonight to talk about. I looked up some research articles on the racial differences in physical therapy outcomes. And some of the research actually indicates that in some cases, Black Americans suffer from worse rehab outcomes when compared to their white non-Hispanic counterparts. And one of the studies found that after inpatient rehab for like hip fractures, Black Americans had a longer length of stay. They had worse functional scores on the functional independence measure, which is an outcome measure that we use. And we were more likely to be discharged home rather than rather than going to another rehab or subacute rehab facility. Another study that I found examined the utilization of rehab services after hospital discharge from a trauma event. And the researchers found that Black Americans were significantly less likely to access rehab services like outpatient PT when compared to their white counterparts after a visit to the hospital. And the failure to access post-discharge rehab services may lead, which is very correct, to poor functional outcomes that is often seen in the Black population. And the reason behind that, the racial disparities were lack of available of outpatient physical therapists who can meet the needs of Black Americans, which I think is very true because only 5% of practicing physical therapists are African American, according to the U.S. Department of Labor statistics. And I know that is true because my 11 years as a PT, I have been the only African American working in the department. So I know that is very true. The other disparities were location of PT offices may affect accessibility for Black Americans, hours of operation, and ease of scheduling office visits for PT may not fit the needs of the Black population, family responsibilities, lack of time, or lack of childcare in the Black population. And then a big one was lack of trust in the healthcare system. I find that a lot, especially talking to some of my clients that are African American or people of color. They don't trust their primary care. They don't trust the system. And then the other one was just a poor mindset. There's a lack of education. As far as, as we know, America has a problem with systemic racism. As we all know, it's invading every aspect of our culture. And it's created a situation where people of color consistently realize barriers to certain aspects of our society. So in healthcare professions like physical therapy, it's well known that Black Americans attend PT less and that they're less likely to have a positive functional outcome when compared to others. Healthcare providers we have to take a more of a positive action to ensure that barriers to care are removed. And that is a problem because a lot of my counterparts don't understand that. So it's a lot of education that needs to be had in regards to the racial differences and getting physical therapy.
So like everything else, it's going to require that we raise the awareness level for folks in our community, period.
Absolutely.
I always thought that to see a physical therapist is normally after we refer there after an accident or a serious medical injury. I never thought to say, well, dang, Katrina, something's bothering me. Do you mind if I schedule an appointment with you? I mean, I just never thought about that until you opened your practice. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me I don't need a doctor? I don't need to go through this long process to get in to see you. It doesn't require a car accident, nothing else. So,
I mean, the worst thing is like you see me directly, and then if I feel like something else is going on, then I'll reach out to your doctor. Like I'll personally reach out to the doctor and say, hey, I'm referring you back. I'm referring my patient back to the doctor because of X, Y, and Z. So that's the only reason why I may talk to the doctor if something's out of my scope of practice. But any other time, if you can directly go see a physical therapist, no problem.
So I have a question. So I could use my insurance to go see you. Like if this may be off topic, but if I wanted to get a massage, because physical therapists, like you massage certain areas of the body.
Absolutely.
So I can go to you once a week and forever and have my insurance pay for it?
So it depends. So insurance, it has to be medically necessary. So that's why I am an out-of-network provider, because I can tailor to what you need as a client. So if you want massage one time a week and then we're doing other physical therapy stuff, we can make it happen. Now, insurance may not pay for that. They just say, well, you can go pay for a massage elsewhere. You know what I mean? But it has to be,
I'm with Dr. Starnes. So if I back problems and my leg is kind of cramped and I just don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can do. That's we're movement
Brother
experts.
Daryl, I didn't know it either.
Yes, we are movement experts. We study the entire body, how it works. So
Listen,
we don't need a doctor.
people are like, yo, G, you look like you're in good shape sometimes. And I'm like, this time when I got to climb up off the floor to get onto the couch so I can stand up. So I might need a PT expert because I'm like, I'm not going to say it's because I'm getting old, because I know cats who got me by 10, 15 years, they get up off the couch like it's nothing. So it could be that. And if it's not that, at least you'd have a better chance of finding out why I'm having limited mobility at times than my doctor would.
Exactly.
I'm one of those people who had full health insurance benefits through the city. Well, they were great. We'll see what happens.
We're not going to call that. You're not going to speak that.
That's right.
Speak that.
But you know what? I accept that challenge with a smile. So I haven't used my health insurance in about, as I said last week, I don't use doctors. I just don't trust them.
Yeah.
So I'm paying for health insurance that I don't use. So now being serious, I'm thinking about what Dr. Starnes said. I could actually be using that health insurance for all these little joint issues and back issues and stuff, correct?
Absolutely. So how that works, since I'm not a network provider, I know this because this is the insurance model, or this is the model I chose for my business.
Okay.
As an out-of-network provider, I can still see insurance patients, but what happens is I just bill up front and give you a receipt so that the insurance would reimburse you. So you're still using your insurance, but you're paying me up front. That's how that works. But you get more quality care. I get to spend an hour with you, whereas insurance may say you get 3 30-minute treatments. You know what I mean? Whereas I can see you for an hour and a half, and you're going to see better results than what insurance is saying that I can see you.
So in terms of affordability, with most physical therapists, if there's someone, they may have a job, I don't know, Walmart, or some industry where they're not really paid a lot. The insurance benefits, sometimes they're part-time, they may not have full health insurance benefits.
Right.
If someone called you off the street and said, listen, I feel like I really need to see a physical therapist. I don't have insurance. I have limited resources. Tell me about the affordability. I mean, is it an expensive service? Is it something? Help me.
So, it's a lot of years of schooling. I'll be honest. I went to school for 7 years, and I compare it to, think about what a lawyer charges. They charge $300 an hour, $400 an hour.
Okay.
So you want to share what your worth is. But as far as PT, I compare it to what a massage therapist may charge. So typically a session could be $75 to $150 for an hour.
Okay.
So it's not too, I don't think it's too crazy.
I still like that.
What was that?
I still like to use this insurance that I've been paying since I was.
Dr. Paula.
So how do I get
insurance?
No.
And Dr. Banks, I want to just follow you with, it's kind of also the way we think about what we spend on food. Good physical care and good food is not supposed to be cheap. And think about your co-pays, think about your all the drugs you're taking, and think about family. I say this with love. What we spend on our nails and our hair.
Exactly.
If we're willing to spend that kind of money, why wouldn't we make an investment in our health? And Dr. Banks, do you help folks understand what they have to do to submit their insurance benefits?
Yes, I do walk them through that process.
So I live in the real world. Somebody may not have $75 to drop, but they might if they don't go get their nails did.
Right.
Or I'm just saying, and I say that with love. And I used to do. I relaxed. I attached. I did everything you could possibly do to hair.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just sick of that grind. I was sick of feeling like my hairdresser needed to write me a check because I was there for so many hours. And then I was struck by how much extra money I had when I cut all my hair off.
Mm-hmm. I believe it.
It was from getting up and then just getting the chemicals out of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I don't want to, because we could do a whole show on hair, right? But I just think that's really important that, yeah, somebody is
yourself, yeah.
Invest in yourself.
Right. So that's why I don't mind charging $150 an hour, because it's like, I'm giving you, you know, quality service for physical therapy, but I'm also looking at your health and wellness too.
The other piece that you're teaching us too, you've told us there's not enough of us in the field.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make some investment in the education.
Absolutely.
But pay attention to our children. If my son loves to work out the kinks in my neck for me,
mm-hmm.
I don't know that he doesn't want to be a physical therapist. But when I tell him that you have your own business and how much money you can make,
mm-hmm.
and you can help heal our community, our young people need to know this as a career field.
Absolutely.
They don't even know that physical therapy exists. Brother Daryl, these shows are teaching us so many things we don't even know they're going to teach us.
Absolutely.
My quick question, because we pay a lot for insurance. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Many of us pay a lot for insurance, and I know that I'm not suggesting that there are ways to get around, but I want to revisit. If someone goes to see you, they
mm-hmm.
pay you up front, and then you bill to get that person reimbursed. Is that what you were saying?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a guarantee that you can say for the audience that, look, I'll look at your insurance benefits, or I'll talk to the insurance company so that I can somewhat guarantee you that if you pay the $75 up front, you will get reimbursed? Is there some type of, a surety that you can give?
So as far as that, it's going to be up to insurance what they reimburse you. Like, I can write a letter and justify the rehab services. But most times insurance doesn't reimburse all that well, because again, they're all about making a profit. So they can, charge you all these higher copays for less quality care, then that's what they're going to do. And that's why I don't really choose the insurance model, because there's a lot of people out here that their insurance runs out. They don't have the benefits to continue physical therapy.
So should I?
Go ahead.
Should I contact my insurance company first? Is it Health New England, whatever it is, and just give them a call and say, listen, I'm on my way to see a physical therapist. Yep. What am I allotted? What is the process before I get there? I check with you to see if you accept Health New England, right?
So you would call your insurance, because if you have a PT that is accepting insurance, then you can ask the questions about your deductible. Like, how many, what do you have to pay out of pocket to meet your deductible?
Okay.
As far as myself, that's out of network, you can check to see if you have out of network benefits for PT, and most people do. So you can tap into those benefits and still get reimbursed your money back. Some people I know, if I charge $150, the insurance will give that $150 back. So it depends on the insurance. It's really up to the insurance.
So we should call our insurance companies first. And when I asked the question about affordability, it's not, I want to make sure people understand that there's a market value for everything. And I don't expect everybody to engage in, charitable work. It's a value profession. So just that's really for our viewers so that they understand that. But I think it's pretty cool. I think I definitely need to bring you back, because I want to know everything about physical therapy. I think our folks, so I think there are other medical professions that our folks aren't really aware of. And I would love to bring some of those folks in as well. There's just so much information that we do not share. We share what we typically share is the negative data about Black people. We'll talk about our health. We'll talk about the bad things, but we don't talk about the capacities and what we can do to enhance and build up our health.
Absolutely.
So,
and Brother Daryl, you make a really good point, because some people are sitting there thinking, well, how can Sister Liz say she gonna feed us for $2, but Dr. Banks gonna charge us this much? I work for a not-for-profit organization, and that means I do a dog and pony show for white folks who control large amounts of money. And I do that show to get that money so I can subsidize the real cost of food.
Right.
Dr. Banks is building a business, and Brother Justin has a business. They are not subsidized in the way that I'm subsidized. They are young family members who we need to support. I am an emerging elder who has a husband who's a teacher, and he got good health insurance and ain't gonna put me out with a carriage to be walking through the neighborhood. So I can make lifestyle choices now that I could not have made when I was Dr. Banks' age or Brother Justin's age. So I think it's really important that we understand that we're not just investing in ourselves, we're investing in you. And I believe, just looking at her through the screen, that if we make a commitment to Dr. Banks and she is doing really well, she is going to share that back with the community. So because Black businesses that are supported by Black people are more philanthropic in the Black community than any other folks. So it's important for us to understand that, family. And I just want to make sure that people don't leave saying, oh, she got too much and I don't want to deal with the insurance and da 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 da. Sometimes there's an exchange in value. When someone is looking at me and helping restore me to health, and I know they understand my body and my, I want to say genealogy, but I don't mean genetics. I mean, understand who I am as a Black person. I'm willing to be a little bit uncomfortable to make that happen because I know in the long run, it's going to be better for me. Which doesn't mean that I don't understand that there's some people for whom this will be difficult to navigate. It's just like I said, everybody ain't gonna grow their own food and everybody ain't gonna stop eating at McDonald's. And it's small choices, right? So I don't have to come see you 5 times a month. You may do something that I can afford once a month until I get my insurance reimbursement, and then I can come back.
Exactly.
You just gotta think big and broad, family.
Absolutely.
So
and the other thing with insurance, I want one comment real quick. You think about it, when you make a copay, sometimes your copay is $50, right? When you go to the doctors or specialty. Now, like let's say for physical therapy, you have to go 3 times a week. You have to pay $50 each time you go, based on a typical insurance. That's $150 a week right there, just going 3 times in 1 week.
But you know what, Dr. Banks? Rather than get into that, I think people need to contact you. They need to have a conversation with their insurance companies. And again, this is for our viewers. I want to go back to, where is the crossover between Justin? I think that's yours, the feedback. Yep. Okay. Where's the crossover between what you do and then what we talked about earlier with food choices and healthy foods? I mean, are there certain foods that can deteriorate my body? You know, I think they said it already.
Yeah, sugar.
Sugar like that. Would you refer them off to, like, say, an Our Journeys or any other organization that works with people around building healthy diets?
Absolutely. So I can start the conversation and get people going. You know, it's in regards to the health and wellness, like nutrition, and then pass them on to someone that has that specialty, that nutrition, that nutritionist that has that specialty. Yes.
Right.
So my job is to educate.
Because I'm thinking in terms of, as we build our businesses, I think at the same time we should, I mean, it's your business is your business regardless of who you are, what you do. But I think it's far more beneficial to the Black community if we build our businesses with the notion of creating a continuum of services, especially when it pertains to Black health. If I know that Liz Ogilvy has the vegetable gardens, make sure that my clients know about this and make sure they have access to it. If Dr. Starnes do YSET offers a program on healthy family development and family diet and all that stuff, then we make sure that they're going there so that we kind of keep those dollars circulating, keep our bodies circulating in a capacity in which we can grow both individually and collectively. Does that make sense for everybody? How do we tie this in? Because I think it's all very important.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, now I've gained 2 contacts here in regards to my health, in regards to health and wellness. Now that I know,
Wall Street.
there you
Black
go.
Wall Street.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what it's all about, keeping it in the circle. Absolutely. So yes, it, making these contacts and, having a small part in the health and wellness, but also passing that patient along to the expert is what we should be doing.
Okay. So
And that's important.
we've reached the 90-minute mark, and I don't like to go beyond an hour and a half because people begin to kind of drift off to do other things late on a Wednesday evening. It's been a long day. So at this point, I would like for everyone just to go back. And Justin, you've been really quiet this episode. So next week, you better come back strong, sir. Just repeat your name, how people can contact you, the name of your business, organization, or your project. So I want to make sure that if you're in the capacity for people to reach out to you and to be a resource for other folks, make sure they know how to contact you. So Dr. Banks, I already have you on screen for a blast. So one more time, the name of your business, this time nice and slow, and some contact information. So if someone wants to follow up and, bring their business to you, let's make it happen. Let's go.
All right. So the name of my business is Neurologic Optimal Wellness Physical Therapy. It's located here in Springfield. You can follow me on Instagram at Neurologic Optimal Wellness PT. My Facebook page is the same as my name, as my business name. And my website is neuroptnow.com.
neuroptnow.com. Okay. Well, Dr. Banks, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you back again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was awesome.
Is that a commitment to come back?
Absolutely. I'll be back.
There we go. Miss Liz O'Gilby. I'm really honored to have you on. Thank you. I mean, I'm honored to have everybody on, but you're one of my favorite people of all time. I tell you, even when you were coming at me and to get your stuff done, you did not play. But you know what I love about you? You always did it in such a respectable way. And you don't think so? You were always super, you got on me, but it was always cool in a manner in which I've always respected you. Some of the folks with the McKnight Neighborhood Council, I clashed and still clash. I am not the greatest person in the world. I come in with my game face on, but I've always respected you. So I want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing the information. I'm going to have to bring you back on again because I can tell that there's just so much more that you can share, and it seems as if you are more than willing to share. So I got to bring you back. I think this information, this topic, and everything you're presenting is just so critically important. So please, just one more time, tell people who you are.
I'm so happy to have been here. I got to give Miss Mabel a shout out. Miss Mabel is a mother, and she put in the comments that she has almost eliminated sugar from her diet. She talks about eating lots of vegetables, especially organic. Family, if one of our elders can make these changes, Brother Justin will tell you, it is never too late. And Brother Daryl, I can't even imagine what you have to deal with all day, but still having the resource within you to walking the halls of white privilege, family, is a very tricky walk. It's like walking on hot coals. And so when someone can do that day after day, year after year, and then still dig down deep to make those dinners that you were hosting happening, to make these conversations happening. Before we got on screen, I said something and Brother D went, Wakanda forever. And Black people, Wakanda is a state of mind. There's a reason we love that movie, because it reminds us of what is possible for us. So this is a little bit of that, I think. And all of us have a gift. I don't care if you are living outside. When someone speaks to us, when a Black man speaks to me, and I don't care what kind of shape it's in, he sees me and I speak back. Can we just learn to say hello to each other? Can we just learn to nod ahead if that's too much? And then receive gifts like this, like Brother Daryl has put together for us and offered. So you can reach out to me, Liz at springfieldfoodpolicycouncil.org. If you just put Liz Food Policy Council in Google, you will find me because I ain't doing nothing if it don't have nothing to do with food. And all these people know where I'm at. If you got an idea that you think we need to do in our community, you call me up. And if we can make it work, we're gonna make it work. We just gotta remember who we are, Black people. We were not brought here to be as we have been. And some of us have been magnificent in the midst of this horror. And I'm not talking about us being kings and queens on some other continent. I'm talking about our experiences as Black people right here. We built this country. Understand that, internalize it, and stop worrying about what they think about us and know what we know about ourselves. Thank you, Brother Darryl.
No, thank you. I am
And
so
Dr. Paula and Dr. Banks and your little mentee, he don't have to come work for me.
I have before.
Growing food or selling food or helping me figure out what young people want to do around food. I'm serious. I'm going to reach out to you, Brother Gerald, and you can connect. And when I say work for me, I mean, I'm going to pay you.
Oh, he already did. He worked for you once. He's
Where?
in college. He's in college now.
Yes.
Yep. His name is George Anderson. He worked
What's
for
his
you.
name?
George Anderson.
Do you remember? Oh, I remember you.
Yes.
I can't see because you're small on the screen. Oh my goodness. You remember Mr. Ali?
Yes.
I'm going to tell him I saw you. I'm going to text him as soon as we get off. You're going to run something.
Thank you.
Brother George is going to run something.
He is.
Running something. I don't care if you think you don't have a gift. You reach out to one of us. We're going to help you dig down deep and remember it.
Keep the truth. All right. Thank you. Next up. Woo! My new powerhouse ally. Poof! Dr. Paula Starnes. Yes.
I want to say this about George before I get it. George is definitely going to be someone great. I personally witnessed him come against a president of the college, and this was just what, last week? He didn't blink. He told the president about the racial rhetoric that he spewed, and I'm in awe of that young man. Have been in awe of that young man for many years. So anyway, because that's a whole nother show. You should feature George on one of your shows. I'm serious. You might want to do that in your midst of powerhouse, right? In that young man. So I'll make it quick because I know what Daryl means about time and attention span, 90 minutes. So I am the senior instructor program supervisor at American International College. I'm also certified in English and special education at Putnam High School. I own a school building in Springfield called YSET Academy. I started this nonprofit 17 years ago, and it is job training at its finest. I pay young people $20 an hour to do their resumes and cover letters. Matter of fact, George, you were probably in YSET for some years. I just don't remember. Which years were you in there? Do you remember?
When you first moved on to School Street.
Okay. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, I started the program 17 years ago, but then I bought the school building 10 years ago. And it's when I say job training at its finest, I'm proud to say that a lot of young people have gone through the program, and the program itself is job training, but as an English trained certified teacher, everything I do through YSET is to train these young people to be leaders, entrepreneurs, businessmen, presidents of colleges, presidents of banks, these people keep me motivated because every young person that comes through that I meet, I see excellence. And I'm just so proud to be a part of the lives of these young people. So job training at its finest at YSET Academy really extends to good health, really extends to out of the box thinking. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can go to www.yset.org, yset.org. And you could even Google me. You know, I've changed my name a couple times. So my maiden name is Starnes. So you might see me under originally Paula Moore. I believe when I started the program 17 years ago, I was still Paula Starnes, and then I got married. So most people know me as Paula Moore. I just, didn't change my name back. So for now, let's leave it at that. So if you want to Google me, you can look me up as Paula Moore. But I recently got my doctorate degree last year after being in school forever. And that's it, really. So that's my background. If you want to get in touch with me, go to www.yset.org.
And I gotta say, congratulations on your recent victory, or knocking a whole wall down to move your projects forward. That's all I'm gonna say.
Listen, I can't say enough about how humbled I am to have a connection with such a humble man. I thank you so much, Daryl Moss. You put your neck on the line, you put your job on the line, you put everything on the line. And because of that, we have now sprouted an elementary school for young people, which is going to be coming to YSET Academy. It's called Yes Academy, which means your educational success. We are disproportionately labeled with IEPs.
Yes.
And this school is going to speak to the elementary school students who have been placed on these IEPs, and we're going to get them to read at grade level. We're going to get them from when they're young so that they can soar, SOAR, to excellence, like young people like George and others that have come before them. So you single-handedly helped us to get through some chambers. And that is just, if I had a hat on, I'd take my hat off. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes.
Thank you, George.
You welcome. Look at George. And next up, my other little brother from another mother, my co-host, Justin Yarde. You've been quiet today. Talk to us, man. Give us some closing thoughts.
Sorry for the feedback. That's why I was quiet. I didn't want to interrupt the greatness that was in this room today. Thank you to Mrs. Liz, Paula. These are I don't know. They got to put memorials up. They need to start taking down these Christopher Columbus stuff and start putting out some real Black heroes in our community. Closing thoughts is everybody here is more than talented. So you have actually one of the best Black Wall Streets I think I've seen in a while, being from Boston and living in New York in Springfield. And people just have to stay connected. And Daryl's doing his job and making sure people know that these things are out here. A Black physical therapist is hard to find. Most of them are working for somebody else. To have their own Black physical therapist is very hard to find. I'm a personal trainer, so I know what physical therapy is and what it does. And we need to just use the people that are right in front of us. Liz, amazing. Paula, amazing. Daryl's okay. Daryl, honestly, man, we got years to talk, but man, I'm blessed to be even in the conversation with you guys. And people just take down their numbers, take down the information, use the tools that you have. Okay, use the tools that you have. That's all I gotta say.
All right. With that being said, I want to thank all of our viewers. I want to thank everyone who has commented on Facebook, on YouTube, through the Twitter. We just want to thank everybody. Again, we're here every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we'll be bringing in new faces and new voices to talk about what's most important and dear to all of us, especially in 2020 with the COVID and everything else happening. A lot of us have lost family members due to bad health. And I tell you, we're going to correct that. This year, we're going to make Black health a major priority. We're not going to wait for anybody else to do it for us. We're going to do it ourselves. We have the resources. We own the mediums. We can make this happen. With that being said, for everybody out there, for all of our panelists, thank you so much. And we'll be back next Wednesday with Black Health. And don't forget, join us on Friday as we discuss the Atlanta Oh my God, I'm getting tired. The Atlanta child murders will have the lead investigators who prompted the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia to reopen up the case on the Atlanta murders involving Wayne Williams. That's this Friday, 7 o'clock. We'll see you there. So much love, much peace, much respect. Stay black, stay happy, y'all. We out. Thank you, everybody.